Let's take a look at your market news now. Asian stocks were higher as progress in the China and US trade talks boosted hopes that the two countries would reach an agreement soon to end the 7-month trade war. The Nikkei was 0.2% higher, the Hang Seng advancing 0.3%, while the Shanghai Composite slipped 0.3%. US stocks ended higher on Wednesday as the release of the Federal Reserve's minutes from its January meeting showed policymakers thought pausing on US interest rate hikes posed a little risk. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 0.24% to 25,954. The S&P 500 gained 0.18% to 2,784. And the Nasdaq Composite added 0.03% to close at 7,489. Let's take a look at the rest of your markets now. Get some market analysis now. Viv Governor from Rand Swiss joins us in our JSE studio. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News, Viv. Now that the markets have had time to digest that budget speech, what's the reaction?
Well, if you look at the rand is significantly stronger than it was even just before the budget speech, and certainly during the the massive spike we had at the start of the speech. At one point in time, we went to the mid 1430s. Right now, it's below about 13, and it was 25 to the US dollar, which was a nice little improvement coming through, and may indicate that the markets are giving us a bit of a a calm view going forward. That being said, if you look at where we were just a few weeks ago, we were sitting around 1320, and one of the things that caused us to blow out really strongly was that load shedding week that we had. If we see another week like that come through, we'll probably see the rand weaken again.
Eskom did take centre stage in the budget and analysis afterwards, and also that 4.5% budget deficit figure. Talk to us about that and if that moved markets in any way.
Yeah, look, I mean, the market, I think, at the moment is waiting to see whether or not the presidency will be able to actually push through the kind of cost cuts that they've been talking about. Historically, South Africa has talked about, cutting things such as, public sector, wages, putting more money towards investments and so on. But they haven't really been able to do that in the last few years. And if we can actually see some follow-through in regards to these kind of things, it will be very important. Regarding the deficit, I think one thing we need to understand is that right now we're borrowing hundreds of billions of rands a year just to pay off the interest, the money we borrowed in the past. So it's like basically imagine every month you pay off the interest on your credit card by borrowing more money on your credit card. It's a bit of a spiral that you don't want to be into. And I think if we can sort out our debt situation, take some of that interest payment money and put it towards more productive use in the country, we would see a huge return on that investment.
Let's take a look at some company news before we move overseas. Sibanye Gold results coming out. What did those look like and what was the market reaction to that?
It was a bit negative. I mean, Sibanye at the moment is facing quite a bit of pushback about its plan to cut up between 6,000 and 7,000 jobs. It says certain of its shafts are basically unproductive. However, the main union, AMCU, is basically coming out and saying that they won't just basically strike at the gold miners, they'll strike at all the operations out there, just Sibanye Stillwater's operations, to pressure the company not to cut the jobs. I think at the moment the company is holding firm. But it's very difficult to understand how exactly a mine strike is going to be able to, change the business case that Sibanye is experiencing at the moment with regards to profitability of shafts. The market at the moment reacted a little bit negatively to the results that came out. It's slightly down at the moment, but they have, however, experienced quite a bit of an uptick over the last few weeks.
And then Sasol's entered into a market-making services agreement with Ngonyama Capital, in which Ngonyama Capital will purchase and sell Sasol shares in the open market. How has that announcement been met?
Well, I mean, to a certain extent, Sasol's share price is not too massively affected by it. What we are seeing, I think, is more due to the oil price at the moment that's being under, quite a bit of a run recently. I mean, we had, I think, the best couple of months in oil prices for quite some time. There was a massive drop-off in December, and there's been a big recovery since then. I think that's playing more into Sasol's price, as well as, of course, the massive movements that happen in the currency. So it's hard to distinguish what exactly is happening due to smaller, contractual moves for the company.
And there is also this allegation that Sasol knew about what was happening in the Vaal River pollution, then intentionally continued polluting that. Do you think that's going to filter through and affect their share price at any time?
If it would, if, for instance, this was America or this was a developed country, first world country, you'd find that there'd be a far bigger impact, because we've seen some massive fines being pushed through in those countries regarding these fines. You look at what happened to BP, for instance, with its, that oil rig explosion a few years ago, where even President Obama came out and said he'll put his foot on the throat of BP until they pay off. It cost the CEO the job, it cost the company massive amounts of capital, market capitalization losses, billions and billions in terms of payments. It remains to be seen whether or not the South African government regulatory authorities will be as strong as, for instance, the US has been, or recently we have seen with regards to what's happening in Brazil, where those dam disasters are happening. If we can see real government intention, it could have a huge impact, but it requires government intention, government purpose and motivation for all these impacts to be felt by the company.
And then let's go to the US and China. Those trade talks, we're always focusing on them, that deadline approaching. How are those talks moving their respective markets?
There are rumors at the moment that there's some kind of memorandum or series of memorandums being circulated for approval regarding these trade talks. It could possibly be that Trump does see this as being a good time to get trade deals done with China. We're hitting to about less than 2 years towards the next US election. If we have the Chinese trade deal done now, it might have a positive impact that could be felt by as early as next year. I think that he doesn't want to be pushing this trade situation too far, because it is hurting the US economy slightly. And I think that from his point of view, we can get some kind of deal done, it'd be positive. I bet the Chinese are also very keen to make a deal. They've even talked about things, for instance, like stabilizing the yuan, their currency, in order to make the deal more viable. But if there is a deal possible, I think it'll be very positive, not just for the US and Chinese markets, but for South African markets as well.
Your time on SABC News, Viv Govender from Rand Swiss giving us some market analysis there. It's time for a short break. I'll have more business news for you when we come back. Do stay with us.